Good day, dear students and friends. Today I'm going to present a master game of Paul Morphy. Paul Morphy played this game in 1858, I think, and he played against the Duke of Bronze or Brunswick in Paris. And this game is called the Opera game. Now, what would be the lesson from this game? The lesson from this game would be that you have to study master games. And obviously, in this game, you will see a lot of chess tactic, and that is what you could use. And the main attacking formation that I would also like to share here is the battery. The battery on the A2 G8 diagonal with the bishop and queen. It's a common theme because it hits the F7 square. So let's first look at the game of Paul Morphy, and then we're going to look at a game that I played in 1996. It was a blitz game. I played it blindfolded against Kirsten. And then you can see how I use that pattern or the idea which I learned in the game of Paul Morphy, and I applied it in my own game. And the game was over in like 2 minutes. So this is what you can do if you know the games of the masters. You can get ideas from them. Okay, so let's get going. Great. The game of Paul Morphy against his opponents, he actually played two fellows. He played e2 to e4, and his opponent responded with e7 to e5, taking control of the center and opening up for the bishop and queen. White and black did the same thing here. And now, knight to f3, and then d6. Now this move, d6, is called the Philidor defense. Philidor defense. Black opts to strengthen the e5 pawn or defend the e5 pawn with the pawn on d6 because white is attacking it with the knight from f3. And when the opponent does that, the opponent usually gets a very cramped position. And I can also show something else here which should be remembered. It is not a good idea to have your bishop behind the pawn chain here. This bishop on f8 is now not such a good piece. You see, it cannot come out. It's very limited because of the pawn chain there. So you must try not to play like that. But it's a playable opening, but some grandmasters will call it a bad defense. But if you know how to play it, then you can defend. But I would not recommend it for beginners to play d6. Because here's what is coming. White is playing d4. And the idea is very simple. White wants to capture. If you capture back, then white wants to capture your queen. And if you capture, then white wants to take your pawn. And then after that, white wants to fork the queen, the king and rook on d8 and h8. And so you can just see a lot of tactical ideas already coming through. Of course, you should not play your pieces twice. But if you can win material and if you can gain time and if you can make multiple threats, then and it's to your advantage, then you can do that. So here, of course, black saw the idea and then decided to defend with bishop to g4. Obviously, now the knight cannot jump because we have the first tactical device which black is employing by pinning the knight against the queen. So now our knight cannot move unless we want to lose our queen. And so white decides to capture. Morphy captured on e5. and then black captures the knight. And now you can see the knight cannot capture back. Now the knight cannot capture back on e5 because it has been captured. And now queen captures on f3, and then d captures on e5. This is how the game went. And then white played bishop to c4. This is the game of Paul Morphy. And here black to played because black has to develop the king side. White can already castle. You can see these squares are empty between the king and the rook. But you can also see on the other side that black lacks in development because the knight and bishop on the king side both are still in the at their initial squares. So white is definitely in development, and so black starts by bringing out the knight, and next we'll play the bishop out. And here Paul Morphy went queen to b 3, and this is the battering ram I spoke about earlier. The battery, okay, the weakness is on f7, but the battery is here on the a2 h2 and g8 diagonal. It stretched from here on this diagonal. So we have the queen and bishop battery. We can see the queen and bishop attacks there, but our queen also attacks on b7. So black to play decided that to defend the king is more prudent, and therefore played king to queen to e7 to protect the pawn on f7. And if white were to capture the pawn on b7, that is the only thing that that will be lost, and black will be ahead in development because the following line should be considered, because now if you take, then the opponent can come with check, and then you have to take, and then the opponent can come again with check. And although you lost the pawn, the opponent is also threatening, and now you will have to play your knight. And if you play your knight, then the opponent can capture here, and black would have regained the material. And so that's why the opponent, white did not want to exchange queens, and therefore did not engage in this line, and rather continue with development. Here, white played, after queen to e7, white played knight to c3. So another thing that you need to learn and understand is that develop your pieces as quickly as possible. Don't delay your development, because if you're ahead in development, then you can start to attack the opponent. Of course, you will attack the opponent on the side of the board where you are superior, where you have more forces. Here, pawn plays to c7 to c6, and the idea is very simple. Black wants to push pawn to b5 and chase away this bishop and get rid of the bishop and the queen on the battery, the bishop and queen battery on this diagonal. Plus, the move also opens up the 7th rank so that the queen can defend the b7 pawn. That's the other idea. Here, white to play the bishop to g5, and now we can see white develops all the pieces, and white can actually castle any side of the board now. The problem with the queen move earlier on is that the queen blocks the bishop. The bishop looks very sad. It cannot get out, and therefore black cannot castle. And we will see how this will lead to the detriment of the black side. Here, the duke played b5, attacking the bishop. Now you can pause the video, and you can think about the position and make a decision as to which move you would play. Are you going to retreat with your bishop, or what are you going to do? I'll give you a few minutes. If you got it right, if you got the idea, then white did not retreat. White moved forward. White captured the pawn on b5, and you'll see why white captured that pawn, because after that c captures on b5, and then bishop captures on b5, and now you can see the king is exposed. The king is exposed. It is very dangerous now. And here black played knight b to d7 to stop the to defend against the check. And then white castle. Now you can see, if you had in development, you can deploy your pieces rapidly. We have this rook on d1 now, developed with castling, and we have this bishop here, and we have this bishop here. Look at the two bishops, they are very menacing, attacking, and all black can do is defend. And so this is a very dangerous situation for black. And so black decides to bring the rook in to defend, because the white added another attacker. And now rook captures on d7. Take note, the knight cannot take. The knight cannot take. And in the previous example also, the knight cannot take, because the queen will be captured. If the knight moves, then the queen will be captured with the bishop. So here the opponent has to respond with the rook. Rook captures. And now white brings another attacker. So another lesson that you can learn here is that bring more attackers into the game. Because sometimes the pieces that you're attacking with are not enough, and then you'll have to bring extra attackers. Look at this. So now the white pieces are on the optimal squares. And now black just wants to exchange queens, because black realizes that there's trouble in paradise. White is launching a devastating attack here. And now, very simple, bishop captures on d7, check. And now you can see that this bishop attacks the king and the queen. And so black defends by capturing with the knight. Knight captures on d7. And now for the final blow. What do you think white played here? We have a checkmate in 2 moves. Can you see it? White to play and checkmate in 2 moves. Pause the video, think about it, and try it out. Okay, if you saw it, this is the move. Queen moved to b8, check. It's forced. There's nothing the opponent can do. Opponent has to take the queen, and then your rook moves to d8, and this is checkmate. See how the bishop and the rook coordinate nicely on the d8 square, and delivers a checkmate, a devastating checkmate. This is a game that Paul Morphy played, the opera game. It's called the opera game. So I learned from this master game, and now I will show you the game that I have played. My game ended much faster. I think I checkmate my opponent in 9 moves, because my opponent made a mistake earlier on. And so I will show you how that game went down. So here is the game that I played blindfolded. It was a 5-minute blindfold game, 5 minutes for both sides, against Kirsten, just Kirsten. I played e4, he played e5, then I played knight to f3, and he played d6. And we are following this game. It was very strange that we were following this game of Paul Morphy. He played bishop to g4, d takes e5, and then he captured on f3, and I captured with my queen. Everything was done blindfold. It was just amazing. I really enjoyed it. Um, D takes on e5, and then I played my bishop out to c4. My opponent played knight to f6. I swing over to b3, and now here is the battery again. The battery on f7. The battery with the queen and bishop attacking on f7. And my opponent ignored this threat. I don't know, maybe because I played blindfold or whatever the reason might have been. But my opponent played the knight to c6. I think the opponent had the idea of maybe jumping with the knight to a5 and then get rid of the two pieces on this diagonal like this. That was probably the idea, and maybe did not see what is coming next. And here I ended the game in two moves. And now I want you to pause the video again for a few minutes and then try and find. Maybe you will see it in seconds. Checkmate in two moves. If you saw it, great stuff. This is the move. White to play plays bishop captures on f7 check. The king moved forward to e7 and then queen to e6, and it is checkmate. So what is the lesson to learn from this? Oh, if you give check and the king goes to d7, then you can also go to e6. That is also checkmate. So there was just no escape. It was a forced checkmate. What is the lesson that the lessons that you could learn from this? Number one, study master games. Number two, know opening theory, because we obviously play this from opening theory. And don't forget the battering ram. But the other important thing to remember is to always protect your king. Always look out for the safety of your king. It's the most important thing to look at when you consider your position after your opponent move. The first thing you need to consider is your king safety. Is my king safe? And then you look at the queen, then the rooks, then the bishops and knights, and then the pawns. That's you go down the list. You start with the most important piece and you go to the least important piece. So that's how you should start with your search in finding the best move and finding the candidate moves. Um, so the lessons are study master games, pattern recognition, because and ideas that you get from master games, you can implement it in your own games, even in blitz games, even in blindfold games. And then remember the battery, and then remember that what another thing that we could learn from this game is the game of polymorphy is the fact that you develop with speed. You can just see how quickly the white pieces develop and how they are taking, and you can also see how that black neglects his development and therefore lost the game. And now you can see if you have attacking forces, add more attacking forces to the game, and that's another point lesson that I want to point out here. And now, don't be shy to sacrifice the exchange. Like in this case, we capture a knight for a rook because we're getting the material back. Check, and then once again, the final sacrifice, final combination, and is to open the line. We want to open the D file, and we force it open, and then rook to d8, and that is Shachmadarovsky. And we can see that the opponent can literally not go anywhere. The king is checkmated right here. The king is dead in the middle of the board, and the bishop covers all these squares, and the rook attacks like this, and the rook attacks like this, and the rook attacks like this. Sorry, the rook does not attack diagonally. That's a mistake. That's the bishop that is attacking like that. The rook does not attack here. The rook does not attack here. The rook only attacks like this. The rook only attacks like this. What's going on? Okay. The rook only attacks like this and like this. Okay, I had my mouse did not function so well now. Okay, so that was the game I wanted to share with you. It was a blitz game, and then of course the important game of polymorphy. I hope that you learned something from this. Thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.